7 o'clock, I'll call the meeting to order
We'll talk afterwards.
of the Planning and Zoning Commission, April 4th, 2024, 7 PM. First, second on our list here is roll call. Paige, can you help us?
David Larson,
Present.
John Meyer,
Here.
Doug Benschoter, Stephanie Garner,
Present.
David Huser,
Here.
Kate Payne, Kathy Olson.
Here.
Awesome. So we have a quorum. Thank you. All right, so item C on our agenda is the approval for tonight's agenda. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none. Motion carries. Item D would be approval of our last meeting, March 7th, 2024's agenda. Minutes. Excuse me. Thank you. Do I have a motion to pass that?
Move approval.
Second? Motion's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion also carries. Thank you. All right. First item in our regular business section is a review of a Plat of Survey. Paige, could you walk us through the agenda memo?
Yeah, so as you can also see on Beacon, we've got Beacon open for you to show where Meyer Hansen's property line actually ends, which includes part of 10th Street, or 10th Avenue, excuse me, southwest. So that acquisition right of way is just to deed back the right of way through those two parcels. Bill had verbal conversations with the Meyer Hansen's properties, and a deed would be included prior to council approval.
And I presume this is all being done without any compensation? We're not having to buy it back from them?
Correct. The expenditure I have required is the $2,000 for the survey. We did have to have it surveyed, and then the recording fees. We'll pay to record the deed and the lot survey.
Is this a problem of our former city attorney, or?
Well, I happened to bump into somebody who gave me a little more history. Until Meyer Hansen bought those properties, you know, that whole corner was owned by the city.
Right.
And they, somehow when they sold it to Meyer Hansen, they kind of overlooked the fact that
Yes.
there was a piece of right-of-way that, I mean, you could either call it a big piece of right-of-way or, you know, I mean, it needed to be split off.
Okay.
But
Other discussions, questions?
Move the city planning and zoning commission recommend the Plat of Survey for Parcel 1 to the city council.
Recommend approval.
Approval, I'm sorry, yeah.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hearing none opposed, that motion carries. Item 2, review a section of Waverly City Code, section 100.29, wood furnaces.
Okay, yeah, so this is part of the zoning code that staff has put together. There's been a random comment here or there, but just within the last several weeks now, we have had more than one inquiry about installing wood furnaces. Whether they're indoor, outdoor, as you'll see, the code proposed does include both. So we just wanted to get it before you all and decide.
Can you clarify what indoor wood furnace is?
And we'll discuss that, or I know John had a comment on that I can have him speak to later. But theoretically, that would probably be your chimneys, your fireplaces, wood burning stoves, any of those interior ones.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it defined it here as, you know, pellet stoves, corn burners, fireplace, any sort of combustible
Reverting back to the old days.
material.
When it said furnace with it, that threw me.
True, but it does kind of explain those other, so.
Yeah.
And it does say that it's that equipment for the primary purpose to fuel or produce heat.
But it's also a component of a heating system.
Correct.
But it can be standalone though. I mean, it can be your only means of heat, according to the notes that we've read so far, which is, again, maybe into the weeds for the indoor versus outdoor, et cetera. But I think maybe this is a place where we kind of segue into, I know, John, you
Yeah.
had some comments you emailed to the team here. I did as well. I think you did, coincidentally. How do we want to, did everybody have a chance to read those? Do we want to kind of discuss them one by one? Maybe not the best to share to the,
I think probably it's best for John if we want to go
Well,
forward
I
with
could-
the interior one
I'm willing to
first.
start.
Yeah.
You know, looking at this from a zoning standpoint, zoning and land use standpoint, which is what we're involved with, you know, the first thing that I felt is, you know, an indoor furnace or fireplace or pellet burner, you know, I just don't see where that applies. I don't think we should be messing with that. I mean, you can have a unit that hooks on beside your gas furnace that burns pellets and wood. As a matter of fact, my daughter and son-in-law have got one of those in their house, you know, and it's sophisticated enough that, you know, if it's not warming the house up, the gas furnace kicks in, you know? I mean, it's all controlled. But you can indeed have, you know, they also have a family room that doesn't hook up to the furnace, and it has a Franklin stove in it, and that's what they heat that room with. I mean, and so it's more like a 3-season or 4-season porch, you know, they only use it on weekends generally, and that's when they fire it up. So you can have a lot of variations, but to me, that isn't a land use issue. And, you know, my recommendation is that we take indoor furnaces or indoor wood burners out of the ordinance completely. The other issue that I had, and really I don't have a good solution, is some of the things that Dave came up about. You know, if you're on a lot, I like the 1 acre lot, I mean, so it's oversized, I like it being put into the building footprint, so it's off the lot lines, that kind of thing. But, you know, what if you've got your house down here and the next lot 300 feet away is up there, how is this guy gonna get to be 20 foot above it? And, or 2 foot above it, when it might have to be a big,
It might be a
long,
20-foot
tall
step.
chimney,
Yeah,
you know?
right.
And I didn't know, you know, Dave very accurately has a little sketch there, and it shows where guy wires are needed. And I guess, I don't have feelings about that. I think there's a practical limit to it. How tall do we want it sticking up in the air? And maybe somebody that's dealing with it can enlighten us a little bit on that. Or maybe we just say that, you know, you've got to be 2 foot above it, and we don't want more than 20 foot a stack, and that means that some people won't be able to build them. I don't know. You know, I guess that's the approach. I don't know. I'm open to discussion on that, for sure. But those were the big things that I had.
So going back to the interior real quick, so we don't keep bouncing back and forth, those would still be a plumbing mechanical permit by
Right.
Bremer County. So yes, John's right. Right now zoning really doesn't deal with anything
Yeah.
interior inside of that building. Bremer County would
Yeah.
handle all of those, so it's not like we wouldn't regulate a home.
I mean, and I think Dave's one comment about where do they pile their wood, you know, maybe that needs to be within the building footprint too. I don't know. Or if it's not, that it's covered or behind a fenced enclosure. You know, I don't know. That's some things that came to mind, I guess, for me.
yeah. So your initial proposal here, John, would be to strike 100.29.05 and 06?
Well, basically to amend this thing to take out
Sure.
everything relative to
The
indoor.
Right.
I mean, we don't need a definition, and we can take that section out, like you said, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess I would feel the same, you know, I feel the building permit comes across the city desk anyway, if it's a building permit within Bremer County, within the city section, right? You're gonna get a building permit
only if it's something on the exterior. So these
Okay.
indoor wood furnaces, we take away and we won't see them.
Okay.
But there's no need for us to see them.
No, I agree. I was just,
Yeah.
didn't know if it's still triggered or not.
Do those actually, do they sit on a concrete pad? You know,
The exterior ones?
yes, I mean, I don't know, I've never, so they actually would have to have a building permit?
They have a building around them.
Yeah, but you buy those, you know, like sits out here on Cedar River
Yeah.
Parkway.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So do they actually sit
The ones I've seen sit on a,
concrete pad
yeah, because they actually have
where the stuff goes
Lines.
down?
You
Yeah,
have the-
underneath,
Yeah,
yeah.
you've gotta have a
a conduit of
water
some
line
sorts.
to
Yeah.
get to the
Yeah.
house.
So yes, Dave, they would require, these outdoor would also require a building permit.
And so,
Because there's stuff in the international building code.
yeah, okay, well, all right, but I didn't know when they're portable like that, if they still have to, yeah.
They're supposed to still have a permit.
I mean, in my mind, I pictured it very much like an accessory building, you know? And, you know, it's
With a chimney.
very
The
similar.
ones I've just seen, the ones I see out there on Cedar River Parkway, I'm assuming that's what we're kind of talking about.
Yep,
Yeah.
those would be the exterior.
So they, even though they're portable units, they still have to have a permit, a building permit.
So it was said about being an accessory structure, that kind of triggers, I mean, there's a lot of rules around square footage. I mean, these aren't a lot of square footage, right? Maybe 10 square feet. Would this fall under accessory structure square footage? Because it really doesn't say anything about that here.
So with how
yet.
it's written, no, unless we want to add something into this or the accessory, because the accessory structures depends on the size. If it's under 120 square feet, which probably all of these are, then it's just a plot plan, whereas this is still gonna need a building permit. So I guess that's kind of up to you guys too. Do we want that to count against the accessory structure limitations? Size limitations?
Well, I mean, but an accessory structure, you don't have.
Correct.
You know, and I guess that's a good question. I mean, you can put that right next to your lot line,
5 feet.
5 feet, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, whereas what this is proposing is to put it into the building footprint of the primary structure. So you're looking at front yard, rear yard, side yard setbacks, and I like that a little better, you know. I wouldn't want it with, I guess I wouldn't want my neighbor to have one within 5 foot of my lot line. But especially the circumstance that I talked about, a 1 acre lot, you know, you can have it 200 by 220, or you can have it 100 feet wide and 450 foot deep. And that's a 1 acre lot too. And so you could, you know, picturing whitetail estates, I think those are 1 acre, more than 1 acre lots.
And it's hard because part of those are into the river. Around
They're
the
what?
river, yeah.
What'd you
Right.
say?
Because they're the long skinny ones.
Oh,
Yeah, they're only, I mean, they've only got what I call, you know, 100, 120 foot frontages, but they're 1 acre lots because they're 400 feet deep, they go clear down to the river.
So, does it, so I agree with a lot of the things being discussed here. I don't remember specifically, did this state within the building, buildable
Yes.
footprint?
Yes, it does, that's the way it was drafted.
Okay,
100.29.04, number 5.
oh, okay,
Owner shall comply with the setback requirements for residential buildings as outlined, yeah.
okay. So if that determines the,
Maybe it should say as primary residential building, just to clarify it a bit more, but.
sure. So that would bound us to the areas where you could build, separating it from accessory structures, more or less, because those can go further away on the lot lines, which, for this sort of install, it wouldn't necessarily be ideal to keep it farther from the house, right? You want to keep it, those lines as close as possible.
Well, you've got to go out once or twice a day.
True.
Tend to.
Well, and you have to have a, I mean,
And you've
if
got a
I'm
water
correct,
line going
aren't these
underground.
units really hot water heat?
Yeah, they're,
Yeah.
they're.
I mean, so you gotta put a pipeline between the unit and the house to get,
So you don't want it
you don't wanna,
super far.
Yeah.
You don't want it 300 feet away.
So the other question
It's
then,
cold by the time it gets,
so this did state pretty clearly, I mean, they can be used for outbuildings and garages and et cetera, I think, as it's written, right? So that could get us
Oh, that's true
into,
too.
Yep.
correct.
Yeah.
So I don't know, when you say primary residence, does that conflict with,
have a shop in your garage or have.
Yeah, that's a good point. If you have a detached garage and you want to use one of these units for that,
yeah, how does that fit into?
yeah, very good point.
I think you still want it in the house setbacks.
Yeah, the pellet stoves and the corn stoves are gonna work better for that type of application. This type of water boiler, or wood burning, water boil, whatever you call it, that, I mean, you do want that outside of your structure, because, yeah, you do. Yeah.
So you're thinking if somebody's gonna heat a garage, they're gonna do the interior one, and that doesn't
Yeah,
apply to
yeah.
this
Yeah.
code?
But this could pipe water, warm water in, and heat, do radiant heat in the floor,
Sure.
yeah.
So if somebody were to choose something like this, I'm just trying to understand how the placement would go if it was for a shop and not the
They could
house.
ask for a variance in that case.
Okay.
Most of the, if you're having a big shop-like thing, you're probably getting it closer to the house rather than that back corner of your lot if you've got a deep lot. If it's only 100 feet deep and you're 550 and
Well, yeah, I mean, if you have more than a 10 by 12 foot accessory building, it's, you've got to be the same setbacks as if you're building a house. So you've got to be in that footprint,
Yeah,
yeah.
so it's probably okay.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm comfortable with the language that's in there for that. If everybody else is, it seems like it covers.
What
most
are
of
the
it.
setbacks?
I was gonna say, but let's have him just speak. Can we have?
Yeah, if you'd like,
Yes,
you know,
it's
just kind of an
his input.
open discussion, if you'd like to.
If you'd like to put some input in.
I got a few questions there.
yeah, come on up here so we
Come to the
can.
microphone.
Oh,
Yeah.
Like I said,
Can we have your name and address?
I'm Kevin Ansel, live at 920 Bremer Road here in Waverly. But the questions I have is, I kind of got a unique situation where I live out there. Pretty much country, but it is in city limits. Okay? That's what, I wonder, what constitutes this 300 foot off of the neighbors? Because I'm out there, but not quite 300 feet.
Yeah.
And then that's what I was asking you about the footprint of the property, because I want mine back in the far corner of my property. That way it's the furthest away from me, furthest away from my neighbors, it kind of equals out.
Would
It's,
it be
nice.
less than 300 foot from your neighbor's house?
Probably that neighbor. Now, he already said that he would give me any kind of easement. I don't know if that would fall into this or not. Anything that I would need.
Because
He's actually considering doing the same thing, so.
is the difference the 25 foot versus the 5 foot? Is that the setback versus?
So being in your backyard, zoning, R1 zoning, feet from the rear yard, R2 would be 20, would be 20 from the rear yard. So let's see what your zoning.
So it almost put it right at my house, pretty close to
Where
that.
did you say you live?
920 Bremer
Okay.
Road.
So yeah, your zoning is R1, but your lot is also only 0.52 acres.
Right, that's the
So
other
that would be our
issue,
other-
the other
okay.
question I have. Why the 1 acre? You know, I can see having the space there. Because you don't, I've lived in cities already where my house was right next to the next guy. I wouldn't want that, I actually did have that with the neighbor burning a fireplace out back, coming right in my bedroom window at night. So I've dealt with that, I know what that's like. And I plan on being very considerate of the neighbors.
Yeah.
I think I told Paige too. I don't have a problem with putting a big stack on. But under that 300, Larry's house next to me is a tall 2-story farmhouse.
Right.
you're talking about guide wires, I'm gonna have to be up there probably 30 feet in the air.
Yeah, and I don't,
That's not,
And like
That's not
Larry's house
realistic.
is 107 feet from your south property line.
is that what it says?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, so
so he would be bumping into two problems. His lot is too small, and he's, less than 300 feet from the nearest dwelling, or to the next dwelling.
And his back property line to the back of the house is 50 feet. So if you
Yeah.
got that 30, it would be 20 feet.
It'd be
from your
right, I
house.
don't want it that close to my house.
yeah,
What you originally said, or somebody here at the city said, 5 foot, 5 foot. So that's what I was planning, is back in that far corner, 5 foot off, 5 foot
which
off.
is your building setback, right?
Yeah, which would be an accessory building setback.
Right, which it is. I mean, it's,
Right.
it's gonna be attached to the house. The only way it's attached to the house is with the water lines and a power line,
Yep.
so.
So that's interesting. How do we, I'm not sure we can rectify that with this kind of a language. What do you think, Coach?
Well, it is, again, this is,
Throw it over to Dave.
I'm used to it. It is kind of draft, so I appreciate your discussion here. I think we have several things kind of in conflict, as John mentioned, right? And, so you kind of have lot size, where the setback applies, right? Accessory structure is quite a bit different than building.
Right.
Footprint sort of setbacks. It's stated here, but I don't know that we have a good baseline to know what is right and wrong, in my mind yet, from.
Well, I think I brought it up
what
to
applies.
page 2, I know it's about the exhaust of this,
Right.
keeping that away from the neighbors.
I mean,
But you have the same thing coming out of the chimney of your house. Now, if I had a wood burner, they converted to a gas fireplace. With that wouldn't be taller
No.
than Larry's next door, so.
Right, and that was a
What would be
question.
the difference?
So, setbacks are the one issue I think we gotta rectify, lot size being another one, chimney height being kind of the third thing for discussion that I don't know if we can answer tonight yet, but I think
Yeah,
as we go
I'm not
forward.
expecting answers.
Because if you were to put an interior one in, you would only have to go 2 feet higher than the peak
Than the
of your
peak of
house.
my house,
Not your
right.
neighbor's house, right?
Now, the other issue that I was made aware of, but I haven't been able to get an answer back on, insurance companies require these to be so many feet away from the house too. I'm not sure what that measurement is. I was told 50 feet, I was told 25 feet. But then if you drive around and look, you'll see these things right next to houses. So what is it, I don't want it close to my house, I know that.
And that probably varies with insurance companies. I
Sure.
heard,
Yeah.
each have
What,
their own.
what does the dealer recommend? Have you looked at?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of, I think they said 20 feet
Okay.
from other structures, if I remember right in what I was reading. So, but which I think is still too close in my book, I'd like it out away from. Just like if you put a fireplace out in your backyard, you don't want it right outside your back door,
No.
so the question becomes, is a half-acre lot big enough? And being 100 foot away from another dwelling, is that enough? I don't know if I'm ready to answer that question today.
I don't see what the difference is between that and then if I were to put a fireplace in my house.
Well,
So,
it's a matter of plopping things on your lot that your neighbor can see and
Right.
and that kind of thing.
well, I could understand making things look,
Where does it
Nice.
become a problem and where is it okay? I don't know.
yeah, my fiance's even on me about making sure this thing looks nice. So, and painting it up all pretty. So,
Just curious if I could, because this is another question that we're trying to wrestle with. Do you have a wood storage strategy? Like what would be your?
right there by the initial wood's gonna be right there by it. I got a runway along that fence line.
Yep.
There. That's where I'm gonna keep primary wood.
Yep.
And then the secondary wood I'll probably keep over in the woods.
So will that be
So-
covered and enclosed?
I was thinking that, yes.
Well,
Well, you'd like to keep moisture off of it. 'Cause
Less
wet-
than
wet wood
25%
don't burn.
moisture. And you've got to have low moisture in your wood.
Right.
So they recommend that it's covered and
Right.
protected.
And are we okay with covered with a tarp or with the building?
Then you need to have
itself?
ventilation.
And then if it's
Yeah.
a hard roof, let's say, a steel roof in a woodshed type, does that count as a structure?
Yeah.
Or not?
That would count as a structure.
These are the-
These not as necessary. The stoves maybe not quite, but the holding the wood, yes.
But what if it's a rack and it's not mounted to the ground and
That's
I'm just, there's a lot to work through
There
here, so
is.
I was just
Yeah,
curious.
Neighbor across the street's got a deal, a little lean-to put up on
That's what most
4x4s.
of them do, so.
Yeah.
And he's got his wood stacked all nice and neat in there.
Yeah.
It looks like season 1 and season 2, you know, some of it's dry, some of it's not, so.
And, you know, I've seen pickup bed trailers full of wood with a tarp on it parked next to them too, you know, and.
Right,
Again, there's
and I've
got
considered that as an option too.
pros and cons. Yeah,
So
or
that
barge
it's,
wagons.
it's handy.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't want a big pile of wood, and I mean, I got a friend up north that burns wood, and his front yard looks like a logging yard. I don't want that. I'd want it to, I want to keep it clean. That's my intent.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I was just curious.
Interesting.
Do most of the installations now comply with this ordinance?
Well, we've never had one in town that has gotten building permit.
That's gotten a permit, 'cause I know there is some, but. That was what I was following all along. Then my neighbor walked over one night and said, you know, you really ought to check with the city on this to see if you need a permit. So that's when I contacted,
Yeah.
you know.
What does the county require?
They,
Just curious.
International Building Code has just a little bit, but it's how it's all hooked up, and they go along with that EPA approved and,
So
all
they
those
don't?
items.
Okay.
Now, that's another part of that too, that I've been doing research into. These EPA units are not efficient whatsoever. You can buy them a dime a dozen right now because people are selling them back, trading them in for other units. I did find, mine is not, the reburn is what it is, but you can get a kit for mine. I did check into that to make it that. But they say if you do that, you can't keep wood in it fast enough.
You can't do
Hence,
what?
you can't keep wood in it fast enough. Because you're adding another blower and more holes, so you're not controlling the flame on it. And that's the benefit of these. Now, the particular unit I have, yeah, it comes with good reviews. It either is idle or it's burning high. That's one of the things that people really love about this. It's just a small unit, it's a 145. They make these things where you could put a Volkswagen Bug in them. That's what my friend up north has. He takes his skid loader and loads it. That's how big his is. But,
Well, there's really nothing in this either that talks about size, right? So I mean, like a small unit versus a 20 by 20 unit. I mean,
Right.
this doesn't say
yeah, mine is,
what we're
4
allowing or
by-
not allowing, right?
Right.
4x6, I think is what it is. 4x7, I think is the
How
actual
did you
size.
determine the size of unit that you wanted? Was it based on your square footage?
Yeah, it's kind of like a regular furnace with BTU.
Yeah.
Because I think that 145 actually stands for the amount of BTU you're gonna get out of it at the other end. So, like a typical house would be that, unless you have a big house, and you might be up a couple hundred
Yeah.
thousand BTU. So, I'm just looking at it as for alternate heat, exercise. People think I'm crazy at 62 to want to cut wood, but I did it a long time ago, and I enjoyed it, so.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think we have a lot of questions to look into before this code gets presented again. I guess my question to the commission here is, do we want to continue our discussion tonight? Or do we want to take some notes here and revisit this topic?
As you pull information from different places, can you send us out different things that you've seen? Or can you put it out, I mean, do you have a peer group that you know?
This has just really been our development team and looking at, Justin pulled a couple of other cities and, the one we settled on kind of mirroring was Caters, just because there was, gave the most information.
Now, I've read through Caters and it has nothing to do with acre.
No, they didn't, that was something our development team wanted
Okay.
to.
I did notice that in that one, it didn't have no size limit.
Right, that was something staff felt they needed to add in, so you don't have these in every development. 'Cause a lot of
I
places
can really understand that point, because you look at like mobile home parks, how they get carried away with letting anything go, and they're a dump. You know, I don't wanna dump next to my house either, so,
Yeah, there's a balance there.
yes.
For sure.
I would move that we table this matter for
6 months?
at least, well, let's make it 2 months and have Paige do some more research on what
I'd
other
like to get
communities
this
are doing.
in hooked up before winter, though.
Yeah, what kind of
Lots of
time frame are you
You
on?
know,
About a 2-month. Just to be able to get all the plumbing and everything else in and that kind of thing,
I
so.
mean, I just think we need to see more what other places are doing and maybe do some research with the manufacturer to understand a little bit more about their recommendations for placement. I mean, looking at this half-acre lot and the placement of the house, it'd be pretty tough to put it on there and be within the distances we're talking about.
Before you table this, I want to throw something else that I've thought of.
Yeah.
Does this apply to pottery kilns? I mean, if someone wanted to have a kiln in their backyard, does this apply to that?
That's not a furnace to heat their house.
No, it's not, but it would
So
be,
we're
there
not covered in
are,
these definitions.
well, there are wood burning kilns, I'm just asking. You know,
That's
it's
a good question.
producing heat, does that be for
Is
heating a
that located
structure?
in an accessory structure?
Could be.
Yeah.
Or is that a recreational fire?
I had an aunt who was like a pot, well, my wife's aunt was a potter, like, you know, did like pottery on the side, and she had a kiln in her, like, outbuilding. So,
So, yeah.
I'm just asking how this might
Well,
apply
but if
to
it's
that.
in an outbuilding, then this wouldn't apply.
I mean, that's
The
just like,
building would, but,
Okay,
you know.
I mean, in that regards, it'd be like a smoker,
Well,
right?
'cause it
Okay.
looks
Yeah,
like-
You're using it to cook meat.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right, and so it doesn't, you're not using it to,
heat the
And
structure.
that's
Okay.
pretty much what these boilers are, though. They're enclosed in their own units.
Yeah, that's a good,
they are, but I think in that case, you know, it's clear the intention's to heat a dwelling, where
Right.
something like a wood smoker for meat, or
Okay.
Yeah,
a
it's only-
kiln, in
Okay.
this case,
4
or,
to 6 hours at a pop, you know.
correct, correct, so,
We're talking about
Depending on-
longevity of use.
right,
Right, how many deer you got?
Yeah. Or whether you're high heat.
so Paige, the duration of amount of time, I guess I'm not clear, where we want to go with that is a couple months,
Yeah.
good, bad,
That was a question more than
Yeah.
a statement.
just throwing it out there.
I prefer that over 1 month,
Yeah,
just
it's
for other
gonna,
things.
it
that
takes
are-
time to get this stuff together, I know.
Right.
I've been doing the same thing, so.
I mean, if you
And
want it
then
to be
how long
3
does
months,
it
I don't.
take? Does this have to go, does this
So
go to council?
it's, goes to P and Z for 1 meeting, and then city council's 3 readings, so that's another 2 months to get it through.
And if you got some information, you can surely get that to Paige too. that-
Yeah, if you see
Anything
of other
that research
places
that
that
you've
go
done.
against what is in here, feel free to send those to me.
Okay.
Also links, anything like that for us to read, or the manufacturer's instructions on yours.
Yeah, I printed some stuff off here, but I wasn't able to get it really organized. I've been up since 3 o'clock this morning. I head out at 3 in the morning, so. But, tried to get it done last night, but that didn't work.
Yeah, so,
It takes time, and I know, and I'm not pushing anybody here to, you know.
Well, your
The only thing
heating
is I'd like to get it in and operational, and get wood cut prior to this. But if it's a nix, I'm not gonna cut and pile wood,
right,
you know?
no, I appreciate you,
I mean, I've already got probably $4,000 to $5,000 invested in this already. So I don't wanna step no more into it.
yeah, no, I appreciate you asking the right questions here. It's kind of new section for discussion here for us, so. Brian, did we answer your question
Oh, yeah,
fully?
yeah. Actually, I thought that the smoker was a good analogy that really made it clear to me.
Perfect.
But along those lines, maybe the definition for the wood furnace needs to include the primary purpose of combustion fuel to produce heat or energy used as a component heating system to provide heat for any interior space inside of another structure or something along those lines to show that it's not just providing heat to itself, it is providing heat to a different structure.
And you could even put primary residence.
Unless you want to be able to do it with your garage, unless
Like
it's
an
outside the
outbuilding.
garage. That's where I wasn't sure.
And that's where I thought interior space,
Yeah.
made that pretty clear. That could be garage, house.
But could it be inside the kiln?
Well, but,
But yes, no, I get it. That was my first thought. I wouldn't have thought the kiln example.
Yeah, I've lived long enough to know that people can really twist the rules.
I mean, if somebody wanted a kiln in their backyard outside a building, I guess that's a whole other story.
Right, you could
But I
shut
think
them down.
It's still, it's like a smoker.
Yeah, I mean, that,
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. I mean, whether you're smoking meat or smoking clay, I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Same thing.
Okay.
Did I hear that right? Smoking weed or smoking clay?
yeah.
Well,
That's
anyway,
what I thought you said.
As long as you ain't smoking something else.
All right,
so
so,
what did we decide? 2 months, 3 months?
2 should be fine.
Okay.
Okay, so just lay that out. If we were able to resolve that in this is for your benefit.
Yeah, I'm
If we
wondering
were
this
to
too.
resolve that in 2 months, if we were,
Yeah.
then that would next go to the city council over, what, 6 weeks? to
So-
get?
Yeah.
2 months on top of
I
that.
can kind of give you the timeline here, the dates. June 6th, it would come back here. Yeah, alrighty. It would then go to city council. I would have to talk to administration to see if they would allow it to go, no, it would be on the 17th for the first
third
reading.
week, the third
June.
week.
And then the third reading would be on July 1st, or excuse me, the
Second.
second reading, public hearing would be on July 1st. The third and final reading would be July 15th. Now, if we go through with the lot of 1 acre, and then you still want to try to move forward with it, then that would require a board of adjustment to grant a variance. That would be the second meeting in August, or the second Monday in August. So you're looking at August 12th to get a variance for anything that does get approved.
Getting real close there.
Yeah.
I originally thought I had plenty of time. Teach me for thinking. Yeah.
So, do you think we could have anything for discussion next month, potentially?
Oh, I
You know,
think we
kind of
can
as-
start having discussion, but I feel like it would probably be another draft. At
Agreed.
least we could have
Agreed.
some things pulled from other communities, things like that, to see what they've done for you guys to
Yeah,
review.
I was thinking if we can set that
And to help give an idea if we're moving towards the right
goal,
direction or not.
right, yeah.
Can you keep me in the loop with that,
Yeah.
with the new drafts?
What's the size that you could have the fire in your yard?
Without a permit. Open burning requires half acre, and
Half
that's
acre?
yard waste.
You mean like a recreational pit, or?
No, like an
So-
open burning.
We really discussed with that half acre, but we're even wondering if that's too small for open burning with some of the neighborhoods. The difference is we kind of thought with that is these you're using burning 24/7 most of the time, whereas open burning, you might burn for a day for that yard waste. It's not going overnight, it's not all day, every day.
I moved out here from Dubuque, and Dubuque took open burning out completely. And that caused a lot of problems.
And of
There-
course,
That
if
was
you
a
have
big
a neighbor
uproar.
that burns all their leaves and calls it a recreational fire, so.
Yeah.
Right.
That's when you call the city, come suck them up for you.
Call the police, and they'll come tell you to stop.
Well, the fire chief will come out. That's what they send out. If it isn't the police that come, it's the fire chief.
Oh, the police just got called up.
Yeah.
Oh, that's who end up, back when you had to have a permit, and I have 2.5 acres, all of a sudden the fire chief came rolling in. So we had a complaint.
So yes, I will bring a draft, some kind of information back for discussion next month.
Okay. So,
You know, I suppose it's also possible, just
I
on
made a
this.
motion to table,
I heard
Yeah.
yeah, so.
for 2 months.
There would need to be a
Do
second
we
and.
need to table for 1 month in order to have a discussion next month on it though?
Oh, we can do that.
And then table it again another month?
That's fine.
I just-
Table it for a month.
Okay.
Okay.
That way if we
That'd be
are
the normal
saying-
way of doing it,
Yeah.
Yep, all right. So then we don't need to vote or anything.
because that way it'll be on next meeting's agenda.
I mean, it is possible once.
I've been involved with a lot of this before, so.
But it's possible after another discussion of this at the next meeting, you would get a sense of what direction
Which
this is
direction,
heading,
yes.
which could help you.
Yes,
Right.
definitely.
Good point.
Because as of right now, I'm not gonna spend another dime on it till I know, in case I have to bail on this. So, I don't want to. I don't understand why I should, considering, like I was saying, going on the principle that if I had it in the house, if I were to mount it in the basement, put a chimney out the top, I wouldn't be no problem. But I don't want that smell in the house.
Yeah.
So, what's the difference of doing it in the backyard?
Well, someone else is smelling it.
Still out of my house, they're still gonna smell it. It ain't gonna be no different.
Yeah.
I could have that chimney on that unit as high as my chimney on the house,
Yep.
without a problem. So it would be absolutely no difference.
Yeah, it's an interesting question
Ah,
to review, for sure.
And one of the main reasons they designed these in the first place was to take that smell outside. And you're just bringing the heat in by water. So you don't have that, I don't know if any of you has ever heated a house with wood, you get that smoke smell through your house.
Well, and you also have insects and wood and
Yes,
all of
yes.
that on the interior structure versus exterior, so.
Now, that's the other reason I don't want a bunch of wood piled around either, for that reason.
All right, so it sounds like we're tabling this discussion till next month for
Yeah, there's
further
a
review.
motion.
We have a
Second.
motion,
Yeah, a motion, need a second to vote.
okay, just the table even? Okay,
I second the motion.
all right, so we have a motion to move it for 2 months.
One
1
1
month,
month, 1 month.
we're revising the motion slightly.
She's gotta go to Racer over there.
Yeah, we have a second. All in favor of tabling, say aye.
Aye.
Hearing none opposed, we table this for future discussion as we go forward. Thank you very much, Kevin.
All right, appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you again. All right, item 3 on our regular business agenda is repealing some zoning code section, specifically 100.21.9. Paige, can you walk us through some stuff there?
Yeah, so another code section.
Whole span of the sign ordinance, jeez.
So what this special permit was originally put in probably when the zoning code was created, because at that time you had your permitted uses in each zoning district. There's items that they might wanted in those zoning districts as a special approval. So they just added one code section for that rather than putting it in each zoning district. Somewhere throughout the years, whoever created special provisional uses in each zoning district, this section should have been taken out at that time, is my thought process. I haven't been able to go back and find all those notes on what happened when. But this basically details the special provisional use process. It says that it went to planning and zoning then to city council, however, that's also outdated because it is Board of Adjustment, not city council that reviews the special permits. So basically just coming to you guys to get that section removed. We are working towards updating the uses in the rest of the zoning districts, to maybe make some of these clearer as needed. This has not been used since I've been here the 9.5 years. And there's some conflicting information such as, well, I think one was our public services facilities, because that was a permitted use in the M1 district, so it did not receive a special permit, because it was under the permitted rather than special permit. I gave you guys a handout today. I kind of put in the agenda memo a bit of what the current special provisional uses are, but I didn't include what any of the actual permitted uses are in those zoning districts. The underlined sections on that handout represent each item A through H on that code section that we're taking out. So you'll see like government facilities, that's a special provisional use in any of those zoning districts. I think I'll let you guys
Is
go
that-
discussion or-
Yeah, I think that's a good intro. So and that might just help calibrate me, so, like, on the first sheet you have for us here, the government facilities, I'm just gonna say A1 through M2, is that all of the zoning districts?
I didn't include like the shopping center, the planned
Okay.
district or the mobile home. I didn't include those.
Okay.
Because like shopping district is a
Yep.
mixture of commercial and potential residential. PD obviously is just kind of plain development, well, just that. And then mobile home.
Okay.
Now, I'll offer my comments here. When I saw this, and I will be very upfront, St. Paul's Lutheran Church and School is looking at a 20-year or beyond plan. And in all likelihood may include more building or expanding onto one lot that we don't own in the 2 square blocks that we occupy. And I was looking at, what would we have to do? Well, and all of a sudden, then it became aware, I started looking around at other churches and schools. If this was passed without making some amendments, every one of our schools and virtually all the churches in town would be non-conforming uses. They would not, I guess you could say they'd be grandfathered in, but how would they ever modify things or change? Because this old 12109 basically was allowed in any zone if it went through a similar review to what we now have for special provisional uses. So looking and thinking, I felt that most of those items, A through H, probably not airports, or mines, maybe not cemeteries, but pretty much A through E should be allowed in every residential or commercial zone as a special provisional use. They need to go through a review by planning and zoning, they need to go through public hearing, but then they would be reviewed and approved by the Board of Adjustment. So I guess my suggestion is that government, schools, general, and maybe recreational should all be included in every zone, A through C, as a special provisional use. And that's what I am suggesting.
On those lines, I did write down all of our schools, and I pulled up the zoning district for those. And as I told John, as we discussed, this can be a draft that gets brought next month too. But let's have some discussion at least to see what we want in which districts. Schools range from R1, R2, R3, and A1 is where they're at currently. And yeah, if you take it out of here, since that's a conflict, we don't follow that process, then it's not allowed in residential. Do we want those allowed in residential as a special provisional use? Because most of them currently are. The North Ridge and Prairie West, those are A1s. The middle school is in R3, the high school is in R1, and then St. Paul's is the R2.
Well, and then you have West Cedar and Cary and
Yeah.
Southeast. I mean, those are existing schools, and I think they're all in our zones.
R1, R2, and R3, so yeah,
Right.
they're all in the residential as well.
And what's St. Paul's now?
R2.
Maybe you said that, I didn't.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess, I'd like feedback of, do we want them to continue? I don't know why they weren't included when they updated this as special provisional use in the other districts. But would you guys like to see that?
I mean, I can certainly see where we don't want those in an industrial zone,
Oh, right.
you know, or shopping center, but I mean,
Well, what if it's a trade school or something? You know, like what if it's a vocational sort of
a
application?
vocational school in an M, that's a good point.
Yeah, you
So
know, just-
that's a very good
M1
thing to do.
specifically says not schools though. M1 says any uses in commercial except for schools. That's one of the exceptions made,
Yeah.
that they don't allow them.
Well, Hawkeye was out there in the shopping center for a while.
And shopping center,
Because you said you didn't include those, but I mean,
that's true.
That's a good point you bring
So
up.
shopping center, I don't think
always
really
tricky.
has what's permitted or what's not. It
No, I
just
know, but I
says
mean,
that it's permitted,
But I don't know
commercial district. So if it's a special provisional use in a commercial district, then the shopping center would be allowed as a special provisional use.
yeah, so I mean, that's the only reason I brought that up, because the Hawkeye was out there at
And
Will Lawn shopping mall for a while there, and the other one is USDA buildings is, you know, when they go out to bid, the USDA, those have been in some interesting buildings, you know. They could very well be, and say like out there in that Will Lawn shopping mall, you know, because at one time USDA was out there where Baker's is, in that building.
Are you, well, okay, that's a government use, I see what you're saying.
So that's the only thing we gotta be
Yeah.
careful of those. Sometimes if somebody owns one of those buildings, like the guys that own the building out there at Will Lawn, they could bid on, you know, doing the USDA building, because those
Well, so
lease
maybe,
contracts are usually, is it 7 years or 10 years? I can't remember, but, so it's just something to be thinking about.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way to think about this is maybe as John and Dave just said, is, you know, what's our overarching goal, right? And if the overarching goal is to make government facilities, schools, et cetera, special provisional uses in multiple zoning districts, you know, it's not written. Yeah, we could simplify this.
well, but right now, government facilities are allowed in any zone as a special provisional use.
Zoning.
So I'm not proposing to change that.
But maybe S1 is not here, I don't know. That's what I was
Oh,
gonna
that's
ask
a
you
good,
too.
yeah.
Here
Yeah,
that it
that's-
could be
Yeah,
or
but-
not.
but, I mean, I understand that
Yeah.
totally, but I mean, we just gotta make sure we
Yeah,
think through the, you know.
Yeah, so what I'd like to see, just selfishly here, would be like every zoning district, you know, listed, and then if it's a SPU or not. I'm not calling you out by any
Yeah.
means here, it's just to understand the broad implication. And then what our goal would be, you know, especially the schools have kind of came up before on side discussions, you know, where those are allowed and not, and does it make sense that residential is excluded when,
So, do you want it with the, I mean, I've listed out everything else except for the factory built, your U1, your planned development, your shopping. Shopping, it doesn't have permitted or special provisional use. All it says is any use permitted in C2 and C3. So they don't have a list of anything.
Yeah, so that would still apply then.
So because there's special provisional use in C2 or C3, theoretically it would be allowed in the
Yeah,
shopping
they would be
center.
allowed, yeah.
I just didn't include that because that's general description.
Okay.
yeah. Yeah,
Is that the best way to say it then, do you think?
For S1, for the shopping district?
Well, I mean, just, you know, anything that's permitted in C1 or, what'd you say, C1 and C2?
C2 and C3.
C2 and C3, is that the best way to have those listed in there, or is it just,
For the shopping center?
yeah?
I don't know, what if you want to change something in C2 and it doesn't apply to that anymore?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying,
Gets a
is
little
that
messy.
do you want to clean that up a little bit as you're, because that's what you're doing here, is trying to clean up this code. And that's where I would start, you know, just, Instead of saying, because if you change something in C2, then all of a sudden that would screw up something else, just like you said, Dave, you know, I mean, that's.
All of them have that in it.
No, I know, but I mean, that's the problem sometimes that we get into when we're trying to make, you know, some decisions on something. Well, it says it's permitted in here, well, what if that's changed, you know, then they go out of compliance, you know, they're grandfathered in, but, you know.
I don't, I mean, it feels like the way it was before it was repealed might have been better. Because, you know, it just covered all zones, as John said, right? Not, what are you doing in this one, this one, this one, versus it just said, hey, you need a special provisional use to do a school, a government building,
So
et cetera.
that is an option to go back to that.
And instead of having it approved by the council, make it a provisional use and it's
Yeah,
goes to Board of Adjustment.
Rename that special provisional use and put those, that, I'm open to that. We'd have to probably circus, airports, mining, those are all listed in some of the other districts, so we would just pull them out, so then we follow this instead.
I mean, it's just, if you read through kind of what that
And now we
was,
shortened the chapter up.
it's actually, the intent of that, I think, is better than.
No, I would have
This.
no problem with that.
I mean, that, the first, you know, could change it to special provisional use is uses in any district must be obtained from the zoning board of adjustment after a public hearing and review by the planning and zoning commission, so.
Yeah. And I know in our other zoning districts, we have that little blurb on that is public hearing, it gives notice, all those add into that section, and
Maybe that would be easier.
that would be easier. Way to go, Dave. Think outside of the box.
That's why we sit here and discuss it, because we
Yeah.
start
No,
thinking, talking amongst ourselves, and all of a sudden you come up with some good ideas.
Exactly, yeah. I like it.
So, it seems like we need more time on this one.
Yep, I'll come up with another draft for next. Is that kind of where everybody, do we all agree that those items, all of them should still be a special provisional use? Question, what about like the fairgrounds?
The what?
The
Fairgrounds.
Oh.
I mean, they've already pulled a permit, they've already gone through discussions and stuff, but would they fit, would they be required to do, should they have been required to do a special provisional use going into that lot? Because this circus carnival, similar transient enterprises, all of those are allowed as a permitted use in the M1.
What are they zoned right now?
M1,
M1, is that what it is out there now?
The fairgrounds, is that M1?
I believe so.
I think you're
We're
right.
not gonna get another fair anytime soon, but I just, there's always something that's not gonna fit, regardless of what you do with your code. Yeah, they're M1.
And H, the circus, carnival, or similar transient enterprise is allowed in M1?
Yeah. And that's different from the fair because that's something that probably is more often than the fair going a week or two of.
Right.
But that just crosses my.
That could be more than what is normally now, because I think that's what they want to do, more things.
You could bring more stuff out there, so.
Right.
Right.
So I think it kind of makes sense that you limit by a zoning, a hard zoning code, I'll call it, for something like that, right? Or you default it to a special provisional, where you would have to make it a case by case.
Yeah, I think we, say that out again.
Well, so I think that's, you know, if I understand the way it's written, in an M1, as it's zoned, that's allowed.
Correct.
So that makes sense, because you're gonna, as a planning board, right, you limit where that sort of activity happens, right? Corridor, we'll call it. And then you can also keep it under special provisional use. If that were to go somewhere else, then it's a case by case.
I think I should pull it out of M1
And just leave it in there.
and just leave it in the special provisional use. I don't think we want it as permitted in one district. And
Well, yeah.
I think just to make it cleaner, I think it would
I
be
mean, the-
easier just to say anything in the SPU process.
Yeah, I mean, look, the fairgrounds probably should have gone through that kind of review. I mean, we should have seen, I mean, the city should have seen a preliminary site plan and where you're parking and where's the campgrounds and where the building's gonna be, and, you know, obviously they can move around and change in size. There should have been a general concept.
And there was, but
Yeah.
nothing of that went like through the Board of Adjustment,
Yeah.
right? That I. can-
I'm not sure, did it get approved by anybody? Did it get approved by the council?
Yeah.
No, no.
I don't think it did.
Yeah, I think, it was used for, I'm gonna say, promotional and fundraising purposes,
Right.
but
But because it was an M1, I think that's probably why
Why, yeah.
it didn't, is because it's as a permitted use. But we probably would have wanted them to.
Well,
They just want to get it done. Get one
oh,
other-
yeah, we all wanted it done, so.
Yeah, I mean-
And that started prior to me being here, or in this position, so I don't know the conversations that were ahead. But I can only imagine that that's why they didn't do that, go through the Board of Adjustment or council, was because it was a permitted use.
Permitted
in that
use, yeah.
one.
Okay. Okay.
All right, so do we have a motion from anyone to,
I'll make a move, I'll make a motion that we table.
For a month.
Because isn't that what you want to do, is table for a month? Yeah.
it is?
I'd second that.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. We'll table that for a month as well. I think we have a plan, as long as you're clear, Paige, and you can reach out by email, of course, if otherwise.
If you pull that together and make it much easier next week,
That
or
will
next
be-
month.
That one will be a much easier one to do.
I can see how it would definitely
Clean it up.
clean some of this up.
Yes.
For sure.
And I understand why they tried putting it in all the other zoning districts, because where this is located is after parking, after yard exceptions. Why is it not up there with the zoning districts? I might see about moving that up in the code, but if all of our section numbers are gonna get off,
But I mean-
possibly. So I'll see about moving it up there. But we know it exists
Well,
there.
you
We know that's what a
could, you
special.
could do it and
permit
make it
is.
an A, put a letter by it if you wanted to move it up.
Or, I mean,
You could even put a sentence in each zoning district
Exactly.
saying, these are permitted uses pursuant, something along those terms, reference in special permissional uses, C section, whatever.
yeah, I
Be
think.
careful so that 20 years down the road, when none of us are here, they said, what the heck were they thinking
What were
about?
they doing?
Did they take out the consultant to help?
The budget.
Okay. So Paige has got to do that. Paige and Katie.
And all of you guys.
All right, any old business? Any staff updates?
Just that workshop is coming up Thursday, Monday and Thursday in a couple of weeks, but you guys have all emails and touch base as it gets closer as well.
Okay, and then you had your email about how to look up stuff.
Oh,
Beacon.
yes. To
case
find
anyone
the
needed
zoning
that.
district on Beacon, yeah.
And if you see things wrong with that on Beacon, let her know as well.
Yeah.
Because sometimes there are.
Yep.
And it's very nice to have these set up for us with Beacon and the agenda every time, you know, we can flip back and forth then. Because I'm not smart enough to do that on my own. I can do it on my own computer at home, but
Different place, it's not the same.
it's not the same.
Commission updates? Any
Wish
changes?
the county would get on Beacon.
I don't have anything for
Wish
commission
every county would
updates.
get on Beacon.
Well,
All right, that gets us to adjournment.
move adjourned.
So we move adjournments. We are adjourned.
Unfortunately, there are two companies that do it.